is happening in California. So I have before me one of my favorite publications, which is not really a conservative publication. They're owned by the Dow Jones, which owns Wall Street Journal. It has a little bit sometimes of a leftist tinge, but they do allow a lot of conservatives to write editorials, and a lot of rational thought goes on in these publications. So a very interesting article is written by a Thomas Dolan in Barron's, which is like an investment paper. It's called California Drying and Drowning in Fantasy Land. So a fact of life in California for ever since, well, for a very long time, there's been a lot of drought and there's been a lot of floods. So in a flood drought cycle, you might think that maybe over time there's enough water to keep the state going. But there is a tendency in California, led by such groups as the Sierra Club, that oppose new water storage projects and blame everything on climate change. So if you have a solution to a problem, if you were a rational thinking person, you would work towards that solution. But if you support the Sierra Club and you oppose any kind of dam building, any infrastructure projects that might somehow affect the trout population or whatever special interest there may be, you'll just put up with droughts and floods. So California politicians refuse to build any new dams or any new infrastructure that would help store water for future use. Because if you're having issues with flooding, you need more reservoir systems, like dams. Groups like the Sierra Club will not allow dams to be built because they interfere with trout populations. And so what you have is a cycle of floods, droughts, mudslides, human carnage, like you're seeing with the Orville Lake Dam, which last weekend was at 100% capacity. Now, the Orville Lake Dam was originally designed to be part of a larger system. There was supposed to be a dam built upstream in Marysville, which would collect water on a tributary of the Feathered River. And that would reduce the amount that the Orville Dam had. So California officials allowed the dam to stay there without building the other dam or making any kind of improvements to the infrastructure or the spillway. So now you have, because of liberal irrationality, a half-assed project that was never completed that forced 180,000 people out of their homes. And inadequate reservoirs and flooding and infrastructure failing, like the Orville Dam and the Orville Dam spillway, they all work to further the argument that the world is spiraling out of control as a result of climate change. If you see floods and catastrophe and death, it goes to further the argument that climate change is destroying the earth and making it inhabitable. And radical environmental groups like the Sierra Club have an incredible amount of power in California, which has been run by leftists basically since the 80s.